It's not going to play.
Hello, everyone, and thanks for tuning in to PWD Allies podcast. My name is Brent Frain. Today, I am joined with my host, Neil Matheson. He's the editor-producer for PWD Allies podcast. And along with my editor-producer, I have Dan Trace, who is coming on as my special guest from Toronto, Ontario. Hello, gentlemen. How are you today?
Good.
Great. How are you guys doing? Thanks everybody for joining us today. It's beautiful here, but it's flipping freezing, man.
Temperature is dropping rapidly. You guys in Toronto had a temperature of 23 degrees last week. I was like, wow, what's going on there? Yeah, so it's
yeah, I don't really notice it on my end when I'm on the crest of Toronto where we get the wind up here, and then once you go like 3 blocks away down south to Eglinton Avenue, it opens up to the sunshine. So
yeah, it's a complete change of temperature. It's like on the west coast here in Victoria, BC. I can go downtown and the actual weather is different and temperature is different than it is where it's like not even a 8-minute bus ride where I am, and you get a wind tunnel. So
yeah, there's lots of wind tunnels there on the island, I noticed.
Oh yeah. So how you doing, Dan? So what's new in your neck of the woods?
Well, it's been quite the eventful last week and a half. We had the Ward 15 by-election in Don Valley West there for city councillor. Again, straight up, just want to congratulate now Councillor Rachel Chernos-Lynn. I hope she does great things for that area. And when push comes to shove and stuff, there was some crap that went on, but we are a democracy and we have to follow through on what we promised to the community. So hopefully Councillor Rachel Chernos-Lynn and everybody involved in that campaign will do what's best for Ward 15.
It was definitely quite the campaign for sure. A lot of people, wanted to see change in their community, for the better. Congratulations on her successful, candidacy on that. You'll see what happens in the community going forward, I wish her great success on that, and congratulations, Dan, on running for that area.
100%.
100, yeah, definitely 100%.
Oh yeah,
150%.
And I appreciate that from you guys, right? It's no secret. I got my ass handed to me on a silver platter, right? But when push comes to shove, we all showed up at the events, we all showed up at the debates and such, and that's what's important. It's like what we're doing here today. I apologize to the crowd for not being on camera, but the audio is what's most important. Sharing stories, right?
Well, let's talk about that, Dan. Why aren't you on camera? That's a good segue. Actually, you can launch into that as to why you're not on camera today.
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, great. Well, if we're going to be honest, right? It's been a long week, and a lot of things have happened, and it all got to the peak today and yesterday when I got some phone calls of an incident that happened out there in Scarborough. Without getting in details of it, because there is an ongoing investigation, There was a murder that happened in my previous building that, it's kind of, it's shaken me. The word, I guess the word of the day now is triggered.
Yeah.
It kind of triggered me. And from what we thought that it was first thing yesterday to what it became today when the police announced, the victim and the accused in the matter, it's taken me to a different level. And, push comes to shove, man, I'm an emotional guy. I'm real. And, there's certain things that hit you and, but like I said earlier, the message is what's important. So to be straight up with you guys, to be straight up with everybody, I didn't even tell Brent and Neil this, but I almost canceled like 5-10 minutes before the show. So I just didn't want to fucking do it.
Yeah.
But it's important to get the message out there. So I hope everybody listening today and going forward in the future, sharing their stories, we can put the pieces of the puzzle together and part of my language, but fucking do something about this, what's going on, man.
Mm-hmm. My condolences, Dan. I mean, because I know that you knew, the person, maybe not like super well, but you definitely knew the person. And I'm so sorry. Like, I'm sorry that, what you're having to go through, like emotionally. It's like a gut punch, right? It's really, I mean, there's no sugarcoating it on that. It
really is, and I appreciate that. And I just want to make clear to everybody, because the people that know me already know, right? But I just want to make clear to everybody, it's not a boo-hoo story, right? It's not me. Yeah. These situations happen to these people. I just happen to be in those situations at the time where I experienced it with these people, right? So am I going through an emotional thing right now? Well, yeah, I'd be a liar if I said I wasn't. But what's important for me, and the reason why I agreed to continue to be on today, is because we got to share these stories. We got to get it out there. I want to make just one point before we continue. I made a comment yesterday about a police officer. He came on and he said what he had to say, read from a written statement. But then he stated that there's no threat to the public. And that's what really got me. Yeah, that's what got me like, hey, man, sit the fuck down. What are you talking about? No threat to the public. These people might not be a threat to the public now, but this is an issue that is an ongoing, what I would call pandemic, epidemic, use whatever fucking word you want. This is an issue that's been going on for decades now that nobody seems to give a shit about. They shove it aside, and then incidents like this happen. And then great media personality and officials from the cities and the province and the feds come in and do their little shtick, their little talk, and then it happens again. So we got to come to the point where we can fix these problems.
And that's why it's important to talk about the raw emotion, right? Because on one hand, you have to be respectful. You have to be respectful because like a person died, but at the same time, this is a real thing that happened, and it's. I think it is important to talk about it because it is raw, it is real. As you said, the people can come on camera and kind of gloss over it, but that doesn't do anybody any good, right? I mean, far better to talk about it in a truthful way, in a raw and real way with real emotion, than to just gloss over it. So, I appreciate you being here today, Dan, to talk about it.
That's why I go on with it like this with you guys, right? Because, like, again, not bitching, just an explanation. As we went through the by-election there was a couple interviews that happened, and the last one was for CP24, and then they didn't use the interview. And I'm just thinking to myself, here's the person with the most experience. Yeah. I didn't sit there expecting to take an all-out win or anything like that. I'm not stupid. I've been around the game long enough to know what was happening. Okay, I knew it. But to finish dead last with 5 votes, with the most experience at City Hall and with the most lived experience, that's what got my goat. And these subsequent things that have happened this week have only furthered my want and need to do well for the community. I think it's a great segue into Miss Isabella Gamp, great advocate in our community who did a lot of things for our community, brought to light issues with ODSPOW as well as housing and the precariously housed. And it's no secret. Me and Isabella never, like, it was rough the past year and a half. But there was that respect there enough to know that the end goal is what was the most important. It wasn't about me, her, us, them. It's about us as a community and putting it together to make things work.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. And we all come together, with our lived experience stories, and we share our thoughts and our feelings of how does society impact what is happening around. And like things, I always say things happen for reasons, but things sometimes they don't need to happen for reasons too. Like it is controllable on certain things happen, like where like glad you mentioned about the police officer saying, well, there's nothing to worry about here, folks. Like there, is it glossing it over? Well, I think the public do need to know what's going on. Like the underlying issue is that like the media will say, oh, yeah, the crime level's down. It's the stats are showing. Well, the stats are showing because people aren't reporting it. It's like they're not all reporting what is going on, and that the stats say that everything's good because it puts on a false sense of reality where things are running amok. Where if murders are happening within a community, people do need to know what is going on. Like, and by the officer saying like, nothing to worry about. I agree. Like, it's I think you just be more honest and say, like we have the the individual in custody, but they shouldn't be happening. I mean,
Well, I do.
And sorry there, Neil, just very quickly. And when I mentioned that, if I didn't explain it properly before, it's like I'm one of these people that like I the first part of my life, the police didn't want to talk to me. You know what I mean? Get away from me, right? Mm-hmm. But I'm one of these people that having a mother that served as a civilian unit member for over 3 decades, and a person that since 2007 has fully accepted and approached my life with the full extent of the law. I have respect for the police when they're doing things in the proper manner. Yeah. This police officer, when he said that, it wasn't him that did the damage, whatever you want to call it, that triggered my emotions. It was the statement that he was clearly reading from.
Right, yes.
People that have no lived experience with the bullshit that's going on. We call them here in Toronto NIAs, it's neighborhood improvement areas. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you guys have the same thing out there, but it's the fact that the statement he was reading from was written by people that don't have a fucking clue what's going on. Right. Pardon my French, everybody.
Yeah, I wanted to get back to Isabella for a moment there, Dan, because there's people that are listening today that don't maybe know who Isabella was. So can you go into you don't need to go into detail about how you knew her or anything like that, but just explain what happened to her, like what she decided to do for people that don't know. I think it's important to talk about that.
So I think first of all, there's a lot of people that are going to have stories about her because she touched a lot of people, right? Myself personally, I'll tell you directly. Like you guys know, I worked for Councillor Ainsley at City Council. So in 2020, I got let go at the beginning of COVID. So I was on my way down to City Hall to hand in my pink, they call it a pink card. That's your ID card that allows you access to City Hall. Okay. And before I did that is when I got that tattoo that's on my arm of the City Council symbol. Mm-hmm. And I came out of that tattoo parlor. I went over, well, I'll tell everybody, I don't care, it's legal. I went over to the weed shop across the street, grabbed myself a joint before I was on my way on the TTC, because we all know how exciting that can be. And when I came out of the weed store, here was about 10 to 12 people in the middle of the streetcar tracks on Queen Street in front of CP24. And the one that stood out the most was Isabella in her wheelchair. Now, keep in mind, I think she was about 6'5", long blonde hair, you can't miss her, right? Mm. So the long story short of it is that, like, I stayed with them that day about a half an hour. I acknowledged the message that they were sending. everybody that knows me knows I'm not the type of guy that wants to block traffic and cause shit for everybody. If that's what people want to do, that's on them. It's okay. It's cool. But that day, I ended up buying them a couple of pizzas, and we talked, and we stayed friends over the years. Again, just to touch on it a little bit, to keep everything in reality for everybody. Last year, I received one of her 6 puppies that came from her dogs. And so when these puppies are brought up, it really touches my heart. And we got into whatever you want to call it, a conflict, a thing, whatever. And we weren't able to squash that before she passed. And that's what bothers me the most. Because when push comes to shove, this was over a couple of $100. And reality check time is that I think Isabella deserved a fucking key to the city. She was somebody that put forth all these issues. She was supported by such people that we've all talked to, like Mike Schreiner, the leader of the Ontario Green Party. Sorry, Mike, the leader of the Ontario Green Party, and various people across the city. It's unfortunate that it came after her life, but they acknowledge what she did, and I think maybe posthumously she deserves a key to the city. So I acknowledge everybody that's gone through the emotions of this week, because I was told that it happened on November 2nd.
Well, let's say that she chose MAiD, right? Medical assistance in dying.
Yeah, absolutely. And I didn't even know she was a part of that until, because I knew about all of her health issues, and I won't discuss them here because that's not for me to say.
Yeah.
But I didn't know anything until I checked out Kareem Assad's website, or not website, her Twitter feed, when they were all at the party, her end of life party, or whatever term they used. And again, it touched me, and it made me think, shit, I knew right away, I'm not going to have the chance to rectify any issues we had, but hopefully going forward in the manner of which I choose to conduct my life, that she can actually be proud of the things we accomplish here in the city.
Yeah, and for people that are listening in on the audio version of the podcast, Isabella was she was a strong advocate for ODS recipients on ODSP and OW. I think she was I mean, you could correct me if I'm wrong, Dan. Was she the founder for Poof?
Yeah, she was the founder of Poof. I encourage everybody to go and check out. I can't for the life of me figure out what the interview is called, but it was done by the Regent Park Community Center. I believe the date was October 31st. And it was about a 30-minute interview with her. I believe it was at Queen's Park. And it explains everything. I think at that point she was saying she founded Poof 6 years previous to that. So what is that, 2018, somewhere around there. And just go check that out and just acknowledge what people are doing in the community and how we can work together on. I've said it to you guys from fucking 2020, 2021, whenever I met you.
Yeah.
If we all work on one issue, Isabella's issues was like ODSP OW. If we all worked on one issue and gave it our fucking all, could you imagine what we could accomplish together?
Yeah.
Huge. I mean, one thing out of the little puppy, I guess it's to remember the good memories of Isabella. On the one part is that your puppy apparently bit you in the finger. I mean, maybe that was Isabella saying hi, Dan.
No, I think it was.
I just had to throw it out there, Dan.
I think it was Isabella that kicked my ass the other day in the election when I got 5 votes. That's what it was.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah. All jokes aside, when I look at him every day, this dog has been a blessing to me. Like I said, we went through our issue. Everybody knows what the issue is. I'll just let everybody know here. It's not a pat on the back thing. But the difference in the issue of what we were going through, I'm going to be giving in 2 weeks to the 519, which is a community center in the gay village here in Toronto that Isabella was a part of. So that's what I'm going to do to give back. I can't do nothing else. Like Isabella's gone.
Yeah.
I can't make that right with her, but I can make that right with people in the community. And looking at my dog every day, I'm going to be reminded. But for me, it's going to be a good memory. I went through all the boohoo shit already this week, so for me, it's going to be a good memory. And like I said, carrying it forward, hopefully, I can help somebody else.
Yeah, and that's one thing I've learned in life, going from past going forward, is to cherish the memories, and carry on going forward, and try to be a better person, all around, right? And being a strong advocate, and doing the show like this, bringing people together, like talking about lived experience stories, talk about issues that are affecting their lives, and that's what we're doing today. It's of networking with people and learning from, hey, maybe you shouldn't have said that, Brent, or hey, have you thought about this? And I'm always, willing to listen and learn from other people, and give advice back to other people too. And that's what it's all about.
Well, and you're bang on, right? The major thing, whether it be in politics or advocating or what have you, the major portion of it is listening. Because if you don't fucking listen, you don't learn, right?
Exactly.
So, like, going forward, like I said earlier, we got to do it as a community, right? Which leads me to my next point, which we can segue into very quickly, because I'm not going to give any details about it right now. But what I will say is what happened in this election as well is that we got word about halfway through that my current MPP in my area where I live is not running for re-election. So if that's any indication to you of why I decided finishing with 5 votes is okay.
That's a pretty big hit there, Dan.
Yeah, you could do whatever you like with it. In this area here, I've lived here for like 45 out of my 47 years. So, I mean, going forward, we just got to do what's best for everybody. And I think everybody in Eglinton Lawrence is going to be pleasantly surprised when a provincial election is called.
Yeah, and actually that's another great segue too, Dan, because if people check out today's thumbnail, they'll notice that under your direction, we kind of titled the show Doug Ford and the Media. So I used the thumbnail today was Doug Ford and the Media, and
the little bee that's right beside
and the little bee that he's about to swallow there too on the thumbnail. So let's transition into the bigger picture of today, Dan.
Well, first off, with that little bee, I still haven't stopped laughing. I told a couple of people online and what have you that I ran into a kid on Halloween into a store or whatever. And, I can't remember exactly what I said, but I said, oh, cute little bee costume. Yay, they help us in the community. No, I'm the bee that flew down Doug Ford's crapper. And I was like, whoa, this is a 5-year-old kid. When push comes to shove, people don't understand what I talk about directly with Doug Ford. So my relationship with Doug Ford is 100% different than everybody else on the fucking planet, okay? 1999, I worked at Deco Labels and Tags at his printing company. And without going into details, I stayed in contact with them over the years, but I never worked with them politically. Were they a great family to me back then? Absolutely. They gave me every opportunity I needed, which is why to this day, I can't understand why this stupid provincial government keeps doing the same crap they do over and over and over and over again. The bigger problem is, why do people keep fucking voting him in?
That's a very good question.
So in the next provincial election, here in it's known as Ward 8 in the city of Toronto, but it's known as Eglinton Lawrence in the province. It's all the same area. That's what Doug Ford did in 2018 when he combined all the areas. He made it so that all the municipal and provincial areas are the same.
Oh, interesting. Interesting.
Now we do not have an incumbent going into the next provincial election. And I'm going to repeat this. In the area I've lived in all my life, in the area that I knocked on doors in the provincial and municipal election in 2022, and in the area where I shop, I eat, I sleep, I walk, I take the bus, it's time to play.
Yeah, exactly.
And you'll get more than 5 votes.
You'll definitely get more than 5 votes. Yeah, You know,
Well, hopefully I'll get more than 5 votes. I got a building of 350 people, so I better get more than 5.
Yeah.
well, you know, the odds of 350. I mean, definitely you'll get more than 5 votes. I mean, especially, you know, it's everyone votes for Dan, and you know, yeah.
Well, what I say to everybody is you got to vote for who's best, right? So obviously, I'll be brief with this part. Call me cocky, call me braggadocious, whatever you want. Like I said, it's over 40 years in this area, right? So it wouldn't be like taking candy from a baby,
Right.
but it would be totally ad lib with somebody that has knocked on every single door in this neighborhood. So, I mean, if that's not what the people need in their lives to fix the issues that are going on, then politics is beyond me.
Well, especially when you get to hear firsthand from the people knocking at their doors, what do they want to, you know, what do they want to see changed? You know, how is the situations impacting their lives personally and moving forward? And you know, only getting 5 votes. I know it's like, I guess people were just maybe not wanting to see the change happen. I guess, I don't know, but you know, and that kind of goes with like on the West Coast. You know, just to kind of do like a segue on voting today, just for our listeners joining in. Today's November the 8th. We had a provincial election on October 19th. It's day number 20.
It's still not decided.
The election's still not over yet, Dan. It's day number 20. They're doing a residual, like a recount. And one of the closest ridings that is going to be the nail biter right now, one of the incumbent MLAs for the NDP, they had a majority government before the election. After the electorate had made a decision that they wanted to see change, so the NDP went from majority down to a razor-thin majority, almost a minority. They got by 47 seats. They need 47 seats to be a majority government. They squeaked just to 47. The BC Conservatives are at 44. They were at 45. They went down to 44. And the BC Greens are at 2. So now it comes down to a recount, and they have 19 ballot boxes that have to be recounted in Surrey, Guildford, Surrey, British Columbia. And so the incumbent MLA was at 20. It was at 27 counts ahead, and so now it went all the way down to 21. So they still haven't finished counting. Now, is that seat going to flip over? If it flips over to the BC Conservatives, that means that the NDP will be down to 46. They won't have official government. They won't
have the majority, yeah.
So they will have to now lean to the Green Party, where they only got 2 seats. So if they take one away from the Green Party won't have official status. So I don't know what's going to happen there, because I know.
So in your province, what do you need for official status in the legislature?
47 seats.
Oh, for official status, though, as a party, you need at least
two.
You need two.
Two seats.
Holy shit. I think in Ontario here, it's like 12 or 13. This is what gets me. I'm glad you brought this up, man. Perfect segues you guys are doing.
Oh, I know.
This is what gets me about Bonnie Crombie here in Ontario, right?
Yeah.
I'm all of you that know me know I'm not a part of any party. I've never paid a party membership. I'm not part of that. If I run if I run as the MPP for my area here, it would either be as an independent or green. And I'll tell you why, because all the bullshit that's been going on in the neighborhood for the past 40 years, nothing has changed, right?
Yeah,
nothing has changed. Well, go ahead, because I lost my train of thought.
I just wanted to do another segue. This is the show of segues.
Lots of segues today.
We're gonna go back to BC politics for a second, and I'm gonna bring up a screen share. And I know you can't see it, Brent, and either can you, Dan. But I'm gonna bring up a screen share. This is from the National Post. An article from the National Post. It was published back in February 15, 2024. And it's about ex-minister Selina Robinson, and maybe you can talk about Selina Robinson a little bit. Give our listeners the backstory, Brent.
Sure. So Selina Robertson, just for our listeners tuning in today, Selina Robertson was a minister for the BC NDP and in British Columbia here. She was very well respected MLA from across party lines. It doesn't matter which political stripe that people vote for. She was very well respected as an MLA. She had a lot of different positions within cabinet, going back, and under the previous administration, under John Horgan, who was our premier from 2017 until 2020. Unfortunately, John Horgan had to step away due to health reasons. So Selina Robinson was the minister there, and she carried on until just not that long ago. Unfortunately, Selina Robertson basically had been kicked out of the BC NDP due to a comment which Neil is going to be reading to our listeners, but a Jewish comment that she had mentioned. Now, Selina Robertson is Jewish, just so that our listeners understand.
And I guess why this is important to me too is because my first wife was Jewish, right? So so my son is Jewish blood. So this is really important to me, and again, like I've said before, lots of times on the podcast, I am a Christian man, and my Christian faith is really important to me, and there's a lot of Christians out there. I don't want to say a lot, but there's a significant portion of Christians out there that I don't think respect the Jewish faith or heritage as much as they should, because there's so much of the Christian faith that is so directly tied to the Jewish heritage, and like it's so intrinsically tied and connected, right? I think that's just so important to realize that if you're a Christian and you don't understand the Jewish heritage and background and everything, you're really missing the mark as a Christian person. That's my opinion, but you really are missing the mark. So this whole thing that happened to Selina Robinson, I really feel for her, because again, I'm not Jewish, but my son is Jewish, and of course my first wife was Jewish. So this really hits home to me. And I think it's really important to talk about, because again, when you're talking about media today, we're talking about Doug Ford and the media. So this is talking about BC media and how BC media can take things out of context. And so here in the National Post, and I will link the article when this whole podcast is aired today. I'll put a link down in the description to it for anybody who wants to read the whole thing. But it's from Terry Glavin. It's an opinion piece. He says, the despicable untruth behind Selina Robinson's political lynching. And the subtitle is, too many journalists have fallen for claims that the BC cabinet minister said something racist. She didn't. And because she said supposedly this, Islamic phobia thing, that is why David Eby sacked her, right? Because in fact, what's his quote? His quote is basically that Robinson had induced so much hurt among British Columbia that Eby said that she had to go. So I'm just gonna scroll down until I get to the reason why this whole thing is kind of absurd when you actually know the real truth of what she actually said. And let me.
While you're scrolling down, I'll give you time to scroll down there.
Yeah.
This is precisely what I told a couple of people in the campaign that we went through, right? So we had an all candidates debate. I don't remember when it was, October 15th, something like that. But it was in Thorncliffe Park at Jenner something community center, right? And I asked, one gentleman came up to me afterwards, after the debate, And I asked, he asked me, what's your stance on TTC? And I told him and everything, right? And he said, well, if you're for the whole community, whether it be the Muslims or the Jews, how come you weren't at the showing last night? And they mentioned the synagogue, some synagogue they were at. How come you weren't at that if you're all for everything? And I said, do you know who was at that event? And he said, yes. And I said, 3 Liberal Riding Party people and Anthony Fury, the PC guy. So it was stacked with 3 Liberal people and the PC person. I didn't even know that event was going on, right? So if people that are running don't know that the events are going on, they're not welcome at the events, how are they supposed to put forward to everybody in the community, whether you're Jewish, Jamaican, whether you're Catholic, Christian, woman, man, tall, short, skinny, fat, how are you supposed to know unless the community tells you?
Exactly. Nicely said.
Yeah, and so I'll just try to quickly summarize this if I can. Like,
Sure.
there's a lot of history to this whole thing, and I'll try to summarize it. Is that that David Eby and Selina Robinson, they kind of they had this idea of for the BC education to have in the curriculum to talk about the Holocaust, because especially for kids nowadays, there's a lot of people that don't even believe that the Holocaust actually happened. They think it's just a bunch of like a big fairy tale that that there actually was no Jewish people that lost their lives or anything like that, and and so that was the one thing that I have to say is that it kind of started with this idea that that Selina Robinson wanted to introduce some curriculum talking about the Holocaust in the school curriculums, which I think is a great idea. But then let's fast forward to October 7th of last year, when you had the Hamas attack in Israel, right? And then like the day after the day after that happened, you had a Vancouver event here that it was pro-Palestine, and they were all like happy. They were all happy that all these Jewish people got raped and killed, and so I mean that's just disgusting to me. That's just disgusting to me that you have this pro-Palestine rally the day after this happens, and they're all like happy that all these Jewish people died and got raped, and kids got raped too, by the way,
Man.
and it's just disgusting. Anyway, so let's and then you have this Langara College instructor. Her name was Natalie Knight, who praised the Hamas attack as amazing and brilliant. And again, this was a slaughter of nearly 1,200 people on October 7th. And she praised it as amazing and brilliant. And so then Selina Robinson, and again, this is like a year ago or so, she says, I am horrified. This is Selina Robinson talking. She says, or this is a quote from her. She says, I was horrified that any human being would somehow think that there was glory in what we witnessed. And she said, what Hamas perpetrated against people, against babies, against old people, against people who were dancing in the desert. Because this was done during a music concert in Israel. Anyway, so then apparently this Knight instructor, Natalie Knight instructor, was suspended, but then she was reinstated again.
Wow.
And then, of course, Robinson was very upset about that. Anyway, so I'm just going to quickly, again, kind of scroll through the article here. So let's fast forward to actually what she did say during a Zoom call, and this is what basically got her fired. Okay, so as I read this, you'll realize that basically what she got fired for was basically for only stating the truth. And I guess David Eby has a problem with somebody stating the truth. Anyway, so here's what she actually said during this Zoom call. She said, "We have a whole generation of 18 to 34-year-olds that have no idea about the Holocaust. They don't even think it happened. They don't understand that Israel was offered to the Jews who were displaced. So they have no connection to how it started. They don't understand that it was a crappy piece of land with nothing on it." Now the whole thing about crappy piece of land, that is what got her fired. When she said crappy piece of land with nothing on it, that is what got her fired. But the fact of the matter is, she was only stating the truth. It was a crappy piece of land. I mean, anybody that knows their biblical history, or if you go back to 1948, 1949, when the UN awarded Israel to the Jews who were displaced, Israel was a wasteland. It was a desert that nothing grew on it. Like it was the most crappy piece of land that you could think of, really. So I mean, her saying it was a crappy piece of land, I mean, it was true, right? So,
I remember in social studies, many decades ago, Neil and Dan and our listeners, I had a social studies teacher who taught us that, who actually taught us that about the land. Yeah. So when Selina Robinson had said that, it brought back a lot of memories. I'm thinking, oh, wow, that goes back in the time machine. Yeah. And I thought, wow, the social studies teacher had basically taught our class that, and we watched videos. He actually got us on the old VHS. Yeah. We watched it.
And the closing comment of this whole article, and again, I'll post it after this podcast is done. The closing comment is, there isn't anything controversial about this history. It is a fact. It is not racist. Robinson was not racist for saying so, and the 9 rabbis of the Rabbinical Association of Vancouver were quite right to tell Eby that in ditching Robinson, he had capitulated to a small but loud group of people, and that he had given in to the bullies for political expediency. And that's basically the end of the article. So here you have Eby that decided that her saying crappy piece of land was inexcusable, when all it was, if you take it in context, she was only saying the actual historical truth, that it actually was a crappy piece of land, right?
Well, yeah, because I mean, like I learned that stuff going through school, like they taught us history, because that's what social studies is, right? I mean, you're learning about the history of what went on around the world. I mean, not just in Canada. And I thought it was very interesting. It was really an eye opener what I learned, and I thought, wow, like that's what happens.
And go ahead, Dan.
Sorry to interrupt you there, Neil.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing I can add to this, because I don't have the experience of it. But here in Toronto, like on one side of me, on the west side of me, I have what's known as Little Jamaica. Mm-hmm. And on the east side of me, I have what's known as, I don't know what they call it, but it's where all the Jewish people hang on Bathurst Street, right? Mm-hmm. I have a Jewish uncle, a Jewish cousin, and a couple of her kids and such. And the only thing experience-wise that I have with them, if I said his name, you guys would know right away. Oh my God, yeah, absolutely. But the only experience I have with this is I asked my uncle a couple of months ago, actually, what can I do to be a part of the solution? What can I do to be a part of bringing everybody together? And he said, Dan, you got 2 choices. You either learn about both sides and get involved, or stay the fuck out of it. Mm-hmm. And so that's the only thing I can afford to this conversation. I just wanted to throw that in there for everybody. But I just wish peace for everybody.
Yeah, exactly. 100%, Dan. Yeah. But it bugs me that, again, this whole show is kind of about media, and again, this was at your suggestion, Dan, that we titled it Doug Ford and the Media. So I just wanted to include the BC slant of the whole thing too.
Yeah.
Oh no, and I'll absolutely touch on that too, right? When I say Doug Ford in the media, okay, like I said, Doug Ford, I can sit down and have a beer with him because I worked with him before, and I can talk to him about the issues because I know the issues, and people might not understand it and they might call me an asshole for it. With regards to the media, I was just speaking on the sense that they have the opportunity and allowance to put on the TV whoever they want.
Mm-hmm.
And the other day when we had a that debate, and I got interviewed by a certain media outlet, and I'm not going to out them, and I'm not going to out the reporter because it's like whatever, it's not worth it. But the fact that they did an interview with me and then didn't even play it, this is the problem I have with the media in our day and age today.
Right.
Is that they have their, if you go and look at all the interviews, all the morning programs, whether across the country, whether it be in BC, Ontario, Saskatchewan, Alberta, wherever the fuck it is, across the country, it's the same people day in, day out, every single fucking day. And their voices need to be heard, but the rest of us do too.
Exactly. Otherwise, it's like very selective of silencing out different segments of the population. I've noticed that a lot of the media, they'll talk about seniors and they'll talk about children, like families with children. And that's great. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
How about people with disabilities? The media, no, they turn the topic away from that, right? About lived experience. I listen to talk shows all the time. And I'm thinking, wow, they're running out of things to talk about. The same old, same old. Well, talk about, get people on with lived experience stories. Like do a segue, do a segment on that.
They can confirm. Sorry to interrupt you, Brent. They can confirm this too. But on CP24, I think it was in 2021 or 2022, a very lovely young lady at the time that worked for them, Christina Tenalia. I don't know if she works for CTV now or not. She came to me at Queen's Park at a housing rally that we were having. And she wanted to interview me because she knew me. Everything was me. And I said to her, no, you have to go over and interview Isabella. This is her rally. This is the rally that she put together. We have to get the word out there and get it going.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because if people's voices aren't heard, then their lived experience, their stories, what they go through on a day-to-day basis are not being heard. So the public figure that the segment of the population are well taken care of. There's always that belief that their shelter portion is on top of their check. No, it's included, and that's that belief that because the government doesn't want the media to basically talk about it. It's like nothing to see here, folks. Nothing to hear.
Yeah, and I think the thing that both you, Dan, and Brent are talking about is this whole idea about media being very selective.
Yes.
That the politicians are, only talk about things and embrace things when it's politically convenient for them.
Yeah, convenient.
Otherwise they don't really care about it, and that's going back to yesterday's show when we were talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion. That's why I made such a big deal about it, because yes, on the surface and on paper, diversity, equity, and inclusion are a great thing, but if you abuse the shit out of it and you pervert it and you're not actually, your actions don't match your words. If your actions don't match your words, then the whole diversity, equity, and inclusion thing is a whole bunch of bullshit. And that's the whole point that I had to make yesterday, and this whole idea that EB basically lynched Selina Robinson for his political gain because it was politically convenient for him to do so. That's the only reason why. Because, again, she was saying the truth. She wasn't saying anything inflammatory or racist. In fact, I wanted to make the point that, John Rustad, the conservative leader here in BC, he was the only leader of all the parties. Like, even the Greens didn't say anything. He was the only leader that said that back when Selina Robinson was fired, he said that he believed that getting rid of Selina or firing Selina was a gross overreaction. He said that she shouldn't be removed from cabinet because he understood the context of what she was saying. He understood that what she was saying was the actual truth, that it wasn't inflammatory, it wasn't racist. It was actually just a true statement. So he was saying, like, to get rid of her is a complete overreaction. So I have to tip my hat to him because, he's the only one that actually came forward and was, again, stating the actual truth of it.
Mm-hmm. At the time, Selina Robinson was the finance minister for the province of British Columbia at the time. Then Minister Katrina Conroy took over for her. So I mean, Selina had a very strong role in the province, and so it's very unfortunate, very very unfortunate that had to happen that way. I always kind of wonder if it's more like a huge political move of hey, we need to now move.
It totally was.
Yeah. And then she sat as an independent, and she was very critical to the government at that time. Mm-hmm. It was very, it was strange actually seeing her sitting as an independent in the legislature and saying, this government, like pointing her finger. And I thought, wow, like, because I knew her personally before they became government, going to conventions and a lot of them, and I respected a lot of them, and I still do from all levels of the government. I think that I think they all can work together. I think all these politicians can all work together, and if they really put all their ideas into action, I think we can make the province and provinces across the country a much better place for everybody. And I think maybe it's time that I think a reevaluation of how our political system works across the country, because people want to see change. They showed in the election, they showed that people wanted to see change. And David Eby said that he heard that people were hurting, they're struggling, they need help now. And when people went to the ballot boxes, guess what? He almost lost. Right now, it's razor thin.
He could still lose if it flips. If it flips, he could still lose.
Right. There's still that chance. So you're saying, Neil?
So you're saying there's a chance.
There's that chance. Look at the U.S. I'm not going to really go down that pathway, but people wanted to see change, right? Mm-hmm. Well, they got change, right? Yeah. But but going to about Doug Ford, same thing. Dan, you nailed it. People, they kept saying they wanted change, but then they voted, but then Doug got back in. So I think now people need to get out there and vote. They need to get out there and vote. Oh, everybody, get out there and vote.
Hey, man, when it comes here to Ontario, like I said, I have a different perspective because I've known them for like fucking 25 years, right?
Yeah.
Would I sit down and have a beer with the guy and talk policy with him and try to talk some sense into his stupid noggin? Absolutely. But will it ever happen? Probably not.
Yeah.
Because all of them are about their own parties. And I get it. Again, when we go back to the Ward 15 by-election and the Kathleen Wynne interference and all that, I'm not knocking it on the sense that, boo-hoo. I'm knocking it on the sense that when we talk about these issues, everybody only hears what the media and those parties put out. Mm-hmm. They don't hear about what's actually going on in the community, and that's the problem here. Mm-hmm. They have to hear about it so that they can form that opinion that says, hey, man, on a municipal level, this is how I'm going to vote. If we're going to go here on a political level, on the provincial and the federal level, this is how we're going to vote. But that's not what happens, man. And unfortunately, the general community doesn't hear about this because people like, and I'm sorry, I'm going to name names, Ben Spur, the Toronto Star, and everybody else, they don't put everything else on the level. They just let everybody hear what they want to hear, and that's their right because they are essentially they're business that puts out whatever narrative they want to put out, and that's up to them.
Yeah, kind of like sound bites of whatever the story, if it has legs, if it has some kind of a major ingredient that people want to hear, they're going to put that story out there. And if it gets traction, great.
Yeah.
And that's why I always say about lived experience stories. It's like, yeah, those are like real, potato and meat and vegetable type of, deal here, where it's got substance. And that's why I encourage the media.
And the rest is all just propaganda. It's just propaganda stuff. Yeah.
Well, and I encourage the media, and I know media does listen to our shows. I encourage them to reach out to people in the communities that you may know somebody in the community that has their story to share. I really encourage you to reach out, and I want to hear more stories of going forward of people talking about what changes do they want to see in our systems. How, our social safety nets. We all know across the country and around the world, a lot of them are broken. Some are better than others in other countries. Canada, well, you've got a failing grade. You've got a failing grade on your social safety nets, and a lot of advocates who basically advocate for basic income or GLBI. And there's different versions of it all. There's MPs that are advocating for that too. We know that all the resources are there. It's just tying it all together and, taxing the big oil. MP Julian talks about that a lot, about taxing the big oil. MP Benita Zarello. I'm just throwing names out there. I'm probably going to miss a lot of different names, but there's a lot of people, even from every political party. I think they do want to see change happen for the better for people across our country. And go after the big grocery stores. The CEOs. They're not paying taxes. A lot of them they're tax havens. They're sheltered, right? Mm-hmm. So tax them, put the money back in the system. Let's get people above the poverty level across our beautiful country. And it is a beautiful country, but politically, it's not beautiful. We can't shake
the provinces, the provincial governments here think that everybody on PWD assistance is sheltering our income. Like we're scrolling it away somewhere,
Or BC saying, "Hey, wait on the federal government. It's historic. We're going to wait till July of 2025." Mm-hmm. Wait. You got to wait until then. Until they get that figured out. I think that it's jurisdictional stuff. It's just kicking the can down the road. It's all it's doing, right? It's all political little game. But you can't play games with people's lives, right? That's the moral of the story is stop playing games with people's lives. Give them the financial means so they can put the money back into the economy. They can better small businesses, because right now small businesses across the country, they are hurting beyond immensely. They are shutting down as we speak.
Yeah, and that's the truth, and that's the truth that's not getting out there in the media, right?
Yeah,
it's not getting out there in the media enough.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and sorry to interrupt you, Brent, but it won't get out there in the media because it doesn't make for a fucking feel-good news story, right?
Yeah.
That's the problem. It's like today, right? We can go through all this bullshit that I've gone through in the past week, but it's like between today and yesterday, it's all been about, the poor community, the poor ghetto. A murder happened there. But nobody knows the actuality of what the fuck caused that murder.
Exactly.
What the fuck caused that guy to take that knife and plunge it through somebody else's fucking body. Mm-hmm. All right. And I'm sorry, people, to be coming out like this hardcore, but this is what needs to be brought to the forefront. The issues, what matter, what happens in between time, how we can solve them.
Yeah, the underlying issues is we need to get to the core of the underlying issues. How do we work with the underlying issues and find a solution? I always believe is from instructors in college who taught me this is, Brent, you look at the goal, you look at the steps. How do you get to that goal? And how do you meet those steps to get to that goal? The ending goal is the result. And you look at the underlying, and this is what really just drives me bonkers is the underlying issue. Okay, how do we get rid of poverty? Right? There's easy solutions, right? But there's different for each person. It may be different. There may be work with that individual. Okay, find out what the reason is. Why are they in poverty, right?
But it's strange to me that governments deliberately choose to avoid the easy solution, right? I mean, actually, it's not strange. I mean, it actually is.
Well, it's deliberate.
It proves the deliberate discrimination that's happening, right, with the policies.
They just blame another government. Sorry, they just blame another.
They're deliberately discriminatory in the way that they don't choose to pick the easy solution.
Well, they don't their stakeholders. They don't want to piss off their stakeholders either.
It's actually because the second portion of it is that it's not their fucking money.
Yeah.
Taxpayers' money coming through.
That's true too.
If the first solution doesn't work, let's take the taxpayers' money and shove it up their ass, and let's see what else works.
Mm-hmm. Especially with like a government will blame another government. They'll say, "Well, when you were in government, you're in government," back and forth, so that nothing ever gets done. Right? It's like that ping pong game.
Well, Doug Ford's in control here in Ontario, right? He's been in control since 2018. Yeah. The government before him was Kathleen Wynne's Liberal government.
Right.
Kathleen Wynne just interfered herself in our municipal fucking election.
Oh.
So what I tell everybody, if you don't understand the English language, what that tells everybody is that it's the same repetitive bullshit over and over and over again. It's not about Dan. It's not about Sheena Sharp or Leslie Stoyan, the other candidates. It's about the area, the province, and what's going on. They went back to a style of, you guys hate Doug fucking Ford. And now we're going to take our liberal bullshit and shove it up your ass. Part of my language, everybody. Mm-hmm. But this is what's got to be said to everybody so you understand what's really going on.
Mm-hmm. They just passed the torch over to somebody else saying, okay, well, I know my time's up, so I'm going to get this other party to interfere.
And really, it helps to explain what happened in the States too, doesn't it? I mean, we kind of touched on that too. I mean, but if you give somebody two bad options and say, well, here you can vote for bad option number 1 and bad option number 2. It's like which bad option do you want, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's basically what you're forcing people to choose. It's like, do you want this shit or do you want this shit, right?
100%.
100%. Yeah. Well, exactly, and then that's why the country gets so divided, because it's like, well, they're torn, right? Because it's like, well, I want this, but if this person says I'm going to get this, and then they get in and they don't deliver, and they go, damn, why didn't I just go and pick that? Well, I mean, so that's the problem, right? You know, it's like the theater game in the Parliament. It's like listening to a recent video, and I encourage people to listen to it. Mike Morrice, he had put a statement out for the economic, they call it the economic statement, fall economic statement. He asked very clear, a question and a statement to the minister, the secretary that's for the minister, the federal minister. It used to be Carla Quantrill at one time, and then Kamala took over, right? Or Kamala, I'd never pronounced your name.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
But I mean, she took over. But Mike Morrice basically asked a question, and her secretary basically answered, but didn't answer. He used sound bites. It's our government, blah 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 blah. And he says, okay, again, people need, basically, I want people to just go back and listen to it. And maybe you can find the clip of Neil and then maybe attach it to today's show.
Sure.
But definitely, I encourage people to go and listen to it. And it was one of those no burgers. Like it was like a no answer in response.
Nothing burger, yeah.
And to me, I look at it as it's disrespectful to the disability community. I mean, to the secretary, you can say what you like, right? I mean, people do have the freedom of saying what you like, but basically Mike asked you a direct question, right? And it's representing people in the disability community across Canada, and not just the advocates, it's the organizations, it's the mothers, the fathers, the grandparents, the siblings of people with disabilities. It's the general public who have connections as allies with people with disabilities. What you're doing, the government, what you're doing is you're disrespecting all of society right? I mean, you imagine, hey, all of society, we're connected one way or another, as we maybe know somebody has a disability, and all you're doing is kicking the can down the road. You know, at the end of the day, you're going to have to get this done. And so, one of the key points that Mike, as a takeaway from the whole conversation, Mike wants to see it retroactive back.
Yeah, I heard that.
To last year.
Yeah.
But Mike, that's great, Mike. Thank you on that. I want to see it retroactive back to when it was originally announced. See,
Yeah.
so here's I'm gonna kind of double down on that, Mike. I want to see it back paid to when it was announced. Now that's going to show real strain on the government. Say, you've made a promise, you need to now follow through with that commitment.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's going to happen.
We have reached the end of the hour, Brent.
Yeah.
So
wow.
it goes fast, but yeah, it was a great show.
So if I may say to you guys for the end of it, in everything combined today, I want to think about the people at 4175 Lawrence Avenue East. A lot of bullshit has gone on in the last 24 hours. Stick together. Reach out to Councillor Paul Ainsley. That's the area I worked for. And with regards to everything else within the province and the city, reach out to me at DJT624, dantrey6@gmail.com. And to everybody that's hating on everything, fuck you. I don't care.
Thank you, Dan, on your statement on that, and for the and also for coming on to the show. Neil, you have any final comments on today's show?
Well, I mean, I think we covered so much today.
Oh, we did.
One of the things that, again, I'm most proud of that we introduced today was talking about Selina Robinson, again, because, my first wife was Jewish, my son is Jewish, and I would actually love to get her on the show. So maybe I'll reach out to her and see if we can get her on the show. And
yeah, I would love to.
And get her 2 cents of what actually went down. That'd be great.
I would love to have her on. I remember when I was going through elementary, and I was going through college, high school and in college. I had actually some students in college too that were Jewish, and they were really Jewish students, and they're really nice people, right? So when I heard what happened, I was like, oh man, like this. This is just not good, right? I mean, of what went down on the situation. And so I would love to have Selina Robertson come on to the show for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe just, maybe talk about her perspective of what went down and an overview. But I want to, of course, I'll give my final comments on today's show. Again, we talked a lot about what's been happening in Dan's neck of the woods and in his area of Ontario, just on the outskirts of Toronto there. And Dan, when the next opportunity comes up, when we can make it out there, I'm looking forward to it, Dan, coming out to visit with you.
I got each and every one of you until the day I die.
Oh, there we go. There we go. And it's so. Thank you, Dan.
Get a tattoo for us, Dan.
Yeah.
Don't tempt me. I'll do it next week, though.
And there was so many different topics that we touched on. I mean, we talked about today, for people that are listening on the podcast, maybe later in the podcast. I encourage you to go back to the beginning of it, listen to the whole segment. But if you're just tuning in now and you're just, thinking, oh shoot, I missed today's show. We definitely talked about a lot of different topics, like it was versus the political stuff, the never-ending election in BC. We talked about a lot about Doug Ford. And like the federal government, about the CDB. We also talked about the U.S. Kind of just briefly touched upon the U.S. election. Kind of, this is what people voted for. They only had 2 choices, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, that's that divide again, and and kind of in Canada, I think that people want to see change, right? And they just want to have hope. They want to have hope. And they don't want to see all this fighting going on around the world. They want to have peace and harmony, right? I think at the end of the day, I think that's what people really want. They just want people not to fight so much and fight over, well, this is my land, your land, or political back and forth, and it's so much, right? So when I advocate, I try to really stay as a neutral as I can. Yeah, sometimes I kind of lean off a little way, but I think everybody does that every so often. But I try to stay as neutral as I can. I'm not a member of any political party. I was, but I've learned over time that for me, I want to stay as neutral as I can because I like to hear all from all angles. I think all parties, all members of in the legislative assembly across Canada, I think a lot of them have a lot in common. They can all work together.
Well, I mean, our door is always open to anybody, right?
Anybody. That's
like we've had, we've had the Green Party on, we've had the NDP on, we have had everybody on, and and having said that too, I mean, we talked about Selina Robinson, but another person I would love to have on, I don't know if he'd be open to it, is John Rustad.
Oh, yeah.
Like maybe he'll be the first, because I mean his party hasn't been around for 100 years, so it would be
isn't that something
like a huge get to get him on. But
we didn't touch on that topic, but yeah, John Rustad. I mean, that party hasn't been around. I mean, they haven't had a government, like an actual government, as a premier for 100 years. 100 years. So he almost. There's still that chance. I mean, almost 100 years since they almost formed government. So I guess my comment to the government is, as you need to listen, listen. And no, Neil, you know where I'm getting that quote from?
Tamara Tager. Yeah.
Yeah, and I always love that one comment. Listen. And that's what I think her point is, that she wants governments to listen to lived experience stories. And like, wake up, don't pass the buck down the road, don't keep kicking the can down the road, because really you just affect everybody's lives. You affect not just our well-being, you affect all of society, businesses. I mean, people don't have the resources. What do you got? What do you got at the end of the day? Just a brownie point saying, well, I formed government. Okay, well, if you don't have any of your own citizens left in your province, what then? So I guess that's a good segue of kind of ending the show, of saying, because it'll kind of blend into the next show. What we'll talk about is,
again, this has been the show of segues.
The segues, and that will blend into the next show of talking about affordability, about housing. So that's a little hint of what we'll be talking about next show.
Speaking of segues, come on the show, Doug Ford. I'm inviting you. This is Dan Trays that work for you. You know who the fuck I am. Come on the show, bro. We'll treat you nice.
It would be a good tag team to have you and him on, actually.
There you go.
I would buy a ticket for that one.
Oh yeah,
I love it.
I get my popcorn out for that one.
Yeah.
Well, there you go, Doug. There's a good invitation for you, Doug. So the Premier of Ontario, Dan Trace, has invited you to come on to the show. Here's an invitation. You are welcome to come on to the show.
So we've had Doug Ford. We've had invitations to Doug Ford, Selina Robinson, and John Rustad.
How about David Eby?
You're all and David Eby, sure.
Sure. Well, let's just throw it out there.
Yeah.
Okay. How about Justin Trudeau? Did they make sing? How about the Bloc Party?
Everybody. Everybody come on all at once. Everybody come on all at once.
Party.
with all jokes aside, what we need is everybody to come on, share their stories. Yes. We all got different fucking stories from different parts, different parties. Let's do it, and let's make this fucking shit right, man.
Exactly. Hallelujah. And that's a good segue of ending the show on that.
That's a good last word, Dan.
Yeah. Thank you, Dan, on that. I couldn't have said it any better. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in today to PWD Allies podcast. I hope you enjoyed the show, and please subscribe, like, and share the content, and stay tuned for other great episodes coming up. Today, Dan Trays joined me from Toronto, Ontario. Always great to have Dan on the show, and I look forward to having you on many more times. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in.
Cheers, everyone.
Take care.